Black woman shares meals with lonely old man, unaware his son is a famous billionaire. Why are you wasting your time on him, Erica? He's nothing but a burden. The words cut through the humid summer night, loud enough for the whole block to hear. Erica Johnson froze, holding a styrofoam box of steaming fried chicken. Mr. Henry, the frail old man slumped on his porch, stared at the ground in silence. Across the street, laughter erupted. Neighbors heckled, mocking. But Erica ignored them, stepping forward. "Don't listen," she said softly, placing the food in Mr. Henry's hands. "Nobody deserves to eat alone." For a moment, his lips trembled. A whisper, "Thank you." Then came the sharp click of expensive shoes. Erica turned. A man in a blinding white suit stood on the sidewalk, his gaze locked on her. His voice cracked like thunder. "Dad!" The laughter across the street died instantly. All eyes fixed on the stranger. The old man's fork clattered to the ground. His eyes widened in fear. "Richard," he whispered. Erica's breath caught. Richard Callahan. She knew that name, on billboards in headlines, tied to towers of glass downtown. A billionaire. The man's glare sliced into her. "And who are you? Some charity worker? Or are you taking advantage of him like everyone else?" Erica's fists clenched. Her voice came steady, sharper than she felt. "I'm his neighbor. And kindness isn't a crime." Lightning split the sky. For the first time, the billionaire saw her. And in that moment, Erica knew her life was about to change forever. Before we continue, click that subscribe button, like this video, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more powerful life lessons. Now back to the story. Heat flooded Erica's cheeks, her hands curling into fists. How dare he? She'd given up her only break on double shifts to make sure Mr. Henry didn't go to bed hungry. She'd stitched his torn sleeve when no one else cared. And now this stranger, this arrogant man with his expensive cologne and tailored suit, dared to accuse her of exploiting kindness? Before Erica could answer, the old man's voice broke through the charged silence. Weak but steady, it carried more weight than she'd ever heard from him. "Richard, please. Not here. Not like this." Richard. Erica's chest tightened. Richard Callahan. She'd seen that name before, plastered across billboards downtown, the signature beneath the glossy ad for Callahan Enterprises. Building the future of America. A billionaire. A household name. Her knees felt weak. She'd been sharing meals week after week with the father of that man. And somehow the billionaire's first words weren't gratitude, or relief, or even curiosity. They were suspicion. Accusation. The crowd across the street buzzed like a hive, whispering, gasping, soaking in the drama unfolding before their eyes. Erica swallowed hard, refusing to look away from Richard. Her heart thundered, but her voice came out steady, sharper than she expected. "I'm no charity worker. I'm his neighbor. And I don't need your permission to show kindness." The billionaire's jaw clenched, his glare hardening. "Then stay out of my family's business. You have no idea who you're dealing with." The old man's fork clattered to the ground. His hands shook as he struggled to rise, his voice breaking with desperation. "Richard, stop." But Richard was already turning, his expensive shoes clicking sharply against the sidewalk as he stalked away. The whispers grew louder, questions flying in the heavy summer air. Family. A billionaire. What does this mean? Erica stood frozen, her pulse racing. She wanted to help the old man steady himself, but her eyes lingered on Richard's retreating figure, a storm brewing in his wake. Something told her this wasn't just a chance encounter. It was the beginning of a fight she never asked for, but one she couldn't walk away from. The morning after the confrontation, Erica woke to the soft hum of cicadas outside her cracked bedroom window. Sunlight leaked through faded curtains, falling across the stacks of bills on her dresser. Rent, utilities, medical expenses from her mother's last hospital visit. Each envelope was a reminder that life hadn't cut her any slack. She sat on the edge of her bed, tugging on the worn blue dress she always wore for her diner shifts. It wasn't just work clothes anymore. It had become her armor. People underestimated her in it, thought she was just another struggling waitress. That suited Erica fine. It made her invisible, and invisible was safer. But last night changed something. Richard Callahan had looked at her like she was an obstacle, like her kindness was an insult. And the worst part? He didn't even see her. Just another nameless woman in his way. At the diner, she balanced trays of coffee and eggs with practiced ease. Regulars waved, offering warm smiles. Truckers, construction workers, people who knew what it meant to stretch a dollar. Yet even here, whispers followed her. You hear about Henry? That old coot's son showed up. Not just any son, Richard Callahan. Worth billions. And she was there. With him. Erica forced a smile as she poured refills, pretending the whispers didn't burn. By the time her shift ended, she walked home with sore feet and a heavier heart. Mr. Henry sat on his porch again, staring at nothing in particular, his empty plate beside him. She hesitated, then stepped closer. Mr. Henry, you doing all right? He looked up, his eyes clouded with shame. You didn't need to see that last night. My boy, he don't understand. Erica folded her arms, leaning against the porch rail. He's not just your boy, is he? He's Richard Callahan. The old man winced at the name. To the world, yes. To me, he's just Richard. But we ain't spoken in years. He thinks I chose this life, chose to walk away from everything. Truth is, I couldn't breathe in his world of marble floors and high-rise towers. Too cold. Too lonely. Erica studied him, her chest tightening. He wasn't just a lonely old man. He was a man who'd turned his back on fortune because it came with chains. Still, she said quietly, he looked at me like I was stealing from you. Like kindness was some kind of crime. Mr. Henry's voice dropped, almost breaking. That's because he doesn't understand kindness. In his world, everything has a price. As they spoke, a sleek black car slowed down on the street, tinted windows glinting in the sun. Erica's stomach twisted as the vehicle lingered before speeding off. She didn't need to guess who it belonged to. Richard wasn't finished. That night, Erica lay awake, the ceiling fan clicking overhead. She thought of her mother, who'd raised her alone, telling her, "Baby, life's gonna try to make you hard. Don't let it. Hold on to kindness. It's the one thing money can't buy." But what if kindness wasn't enough? What if Richard Callahan's world came crashing into hers, tearing apart the fragile stability she'd fought to build? Across town, in the glittering penthouse that bore his name, Richard nursed a glass of bourbon, replaying the scene on that porch. His father, frail and small, accepting charity from a stranger. His jaw clenched. He'd spent years building an empire to erase the shame of his father's choices. And now this woman, this Erica, threatened to drag it all back into the light. Find out everything about her, he ordered his assistant over the phone. Name, job, family, debts. I want it all. Back on her side of town, Erica rose before dawn to pack a fresh meal for Mr. Henry. Not because she wanted gratitude, not because she sought recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. She didn't know yet that every step she took toward his porch brought her deeper into a battle against the most powerful man in the city. And soon, the whole world would know her name. Ms. Johnson, a word? Erica nearly dropped the tray of dishes when the voice boomed across the diner. The lunch rush had barely slowed, and she was elbow-deep in half-eaten sandwiches and sticky coffee cups. When she looked up, her stomach sank. Richard Callahan stood in the doorway, immaculate in a navy suit, his presence sucking the air out of the room. Conversations faltered. Forks paused mid-bite. He didn't belong here, and that was exactly the point. Erica forced her voice steady. "If you want a table, you'll have to wait like everyone else." The room tittered nervously, whispers bouncing between booths. Richard's jaw ticked, but he strode past the waiting customers, straight toward her. He stopped just short of the counter, his voice low enough to sting but loud enough for everyone to hear. "I don't know what game you're playing with my father, but it ends today." Her cheeks burned. All eyes were on her now, the truckers she served every morning, the mothers who tipped just enough to show they understood her struggle. Erica's hands clenched around the tray. "This isn't the place," she said through gritted teeth. Richard ignored her, his voice climbing. "My father has lived a quiet life for years." Then suddenly, a stranger starts feeding him, worming her way into his routine. "You expect me to believe it's out of kindness? What are you after, Ms. Johnson?" His money. His connection to me. The room fell silent. Even the friar in the back seemed to hush, as though the entire diner leaned in to hear her response. Her pulse hammered in her ears, humiliation clawing at her throat. He wanted her to shrink, to back down. But instead, Erica lifted her chin, her voice steady but sharp. "I don't want your money. I don't want you. I just don't think an old man should eat alone every night." For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then a voice from a corner booth called out, "She's got more decency than you, Mr. Fancy Suit." A ripple of chuckles followed. Richard's face darkened, his composure cracking. He leaned closer, his words for her alone now. "You don't know who you're dealing with. Walk away before you regret it." Erica swallowed, fear prickling at her spine. But she didn't step back. "I've dealt with harder men than you. And I'm still here." Richard's eyes narrowed. With a sharp turn, he stormed out, the bell above the diner door clanging in his wake. The room exhaled all at once. Customers murmured, some nodding at Erica with quiet admiration. One of the cooks poked his head out from the kitchen, shaking it. "Girl, you got guts." But Erica knew better. Guts didn't pay bills. Guts didn't protect her from a billionaire's wrath. And Richard Callahan wasn't the type of man to let defiance slide. That evening, Erica found Mr. Henry waiting for her on his porch, his eyes heavy with worry. "He came to see you, didn't he?" She set down the container of stew she'd brought, nodding. "At the diner. Made a whole show of it." The old man's shoulders sagged. "Richard doesn't understand what you're doing for me. He sees the world in deals and debts. To him, kindness is always a transaction." Erica's throat tightened. Then maybe he needs to learn different. Mr. Henry studied her, a sad smile tugging at his lips. "Careful, child. Standing up to him will cost you more than you realize." As if on cue, headlights cut across the yard. A sleek car slowed at the curb, pausing just long enough for the tinted window to roll down. A manila envelope sailed onto the grass before the car sped off. Erica bent to pick it up, her chest tightening as she unfolded the contents. Inside were photographs. Her leaving the diner, entering her apartment, delivering meals to Mr. Henry. Pages of information followed. Her debts, her mother's hospital bills, even the overdue notice on her utilities. Her hands shook as she realized what it meant. Richard Callahan hadn't just humiliated her in public. He was digging into her life, peeling back every private detail to use against her. The old man's face paled. What did he do? Erica shoved the papers back into the envelope, her voice trembling with anger. He thinks this will scare me. Make me stop. Her heart raced, but her words came out stronger than she felt. He's wrong. That night, Erica sat at her kitchen table, the envelope beside her, her daughter's laughter faint through the thin walls of their room. She stared at the bills piled in front of her, at the weight of survival pressing down. Richard had the power to ruin her, to twist the world against her with one phone call. But she thought of her mother's words, the lessons carved into her soul. Don't let life harden you. Kindness is your weapon. And so, with fear in her chest and steel in her spine, she decided. She would not walk away. The diner was quieter than usual the next morning. Not because of the customers, business was steady, but because of the whispers. Everywhere Erica turned, she felt eyes lingering too long, conversations halting when she passed. When the owner, Mrs. Delgado, called her into the back office, Erica already knew something was wrong. Erica. Mrs. Delgado's eyes were kind, but her voice was heavy. I got a call last night. From a lawyer. Said you've been harassing an elderly man for money. Said if I don't cut ties with you, my diner could face legal trouble. Erica's heart sank. That's not true. You know that's not true. I know, Mrs. Delgado whispered. But he's powerful. I can't afford a lawsuit. I'm sorry, honey, but I have to let you go. Erica's knees buckled, her apron dangling useless in her hands. The diner had been her only steady income, the one thread keeping her afloat. And Richard Callahan had cut it with a single phone call. By the time she reached Mr. Henry's porch, the weight of it all pressed like a stone on her chest. He looked up at her tear-streaked face, alarm flashing in his eyes. What happened? He got me fired, she whispered, collapsing onto the step beside him. Everything I worked for gone. Just like that. The old man's hands trembled as he reached for hers. Richard doesn't see what he's doing. He thinks he's protecting me. Protecting you. Erica snapped, pulling her hands away. He's destroying me. And for what? Because I made sure you had a warm meal. Her voice cracked, but the fire in it surprised even her. She had spent her life swallowing injustice, pushing through silently. But Richard had crossed a line. The old man's eyes glistened. I never wanted you caught in our mess. You deserve better. Before Erica could reply, footsteps echoed on the sidewalk. A woman in a sharp gray suit approached, her heels clicking against the pavement. She looked out of place here, polished and purposeful. Ms. Johnson? She asked, extending a hand. My name is Claire Townsend. I'm an attorney, and I used to work for Callahan Enterprises. Erica hesitated, suspicion swirling. What do you want? Claire's gaze flicked to Mr. Henry, then back to Erica. I know what Richard's doing to you, and I know why. They sat at the kitchen table, the envelope of Richard's surveillance still in plain sight. Claire folded her hands, her voice low but urgent. Richard is terrified. 4 years, he's kept his father's existence quiet. Investors believe Henry Callahan died over a decade ago. If the truth comes out, that the father he abandoned is alive, sitting on a porch in this neighborhood, it could tarnish his carefully crafted image. Erica's breath caught. So this isn't about me. It's about control, Claire said. Richard will destroy anyone who threatens the narrative he built. That's why he targeted you. You're proof his father doesn't need him. And that terrifies him more than any business rival. Mr. Henry buried his face in his hands. I told him I didn't want his empire. I just wanted peace. Claire's tone softened. I worked for him for 5 years. I know his patterns. And I know he won't stop until he thinks he's won. Erica's fists clenched. Then I won't let him win. That night, Erica scrawled notes across a scrap of paper, her resolve hardening. If Richard thought she'd fade quietly, he underestimated her. She would find a way to fight back, not with money but with truth. But before she could form a plan, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A photo filled the screen, her mother's small apartment building circled in red. Beneath it, a message. Back off. Last warning. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't just about her anymore. Richard was dragging her family into it. Erica gripped the phone, her body shaking. For the first time, fear threatened to drown her. But alongside the fear, a spark of fury burned brighter. If Richard Callahan wanted war, he was about to find out Erica Johnson was stronger than he ever imagined. Meanwhile, in his glass-walled office overlooking the city, Richard poured himself another drink, his phone buzzing with confirmation. Erica had received the message. He expected her to cave, to retreat. That's what everyone did when he turned the full weight of his empire against them. But deep down, beneath the arrogance, a sliver of unease flickered. Something in Erica's eyes at the diner, something in the steadiness of her voice when she told him she wasn't afraid. It lingered. For the first time in years, Richard Callahan wondered if he'd underestimated someone. If you were Erica right now, fired, threatened, and stalked by a billionaire, would you keep fighting or walk away? Tell me in the comments. I love reading your thoughts, and they help keep these stories alive. The storm broke late that night, lightning cracking across the sky as rain battered the thin roof of Erica's apartment. She sat at the kitchen table with Claire's business card beside her, her daughters asleep in the next room, and the threatening photo of her mother's building still burning in her mind. She wanted to scream, to cry, to throw her phone through the wall. But instead, she folded her arms on the table and bowed her head, letting the weight of exhaustion crash over her. Why me? She thought. Why now? Then she heard a small shuffle at the doorway. Her youngest, Kiana, stood rubbing her eyes, clutching the frayed teddy bear she never let go of. Mama, you okay? The girl whispered. Erica blinked back tears and forced a smile. Just thinking too much, baby. Go back to bed. But Kiana shook her head and patted over, climbing into her mother's lap. She pressed her tiny hands against Erica's cheeks, wiping away tears Erica didn't realize were falling. You always tell me, strong people don't give up when it's hard, Kiana said softly. You're the strongest person I know. The words hit like lightning in her chest. Erica hugged her daughter tight, her throat aching with emotion. In that fragile moment, she remembered why she fought so hard, why she endured the insults, the firings, the threats, because she couldn't let her girls grow up believing kindness was weakness. By the time Kiana drifted back to sleep, Erica's resolve was steel. She picked up Claire's card and dialed the number. The next day, Erica and Claire sat in a cramped coffee shop downtown. Claire spread a stack of documents across the table, her voice sharp with precision. Richard's entire empire hinges on perception. He's the self-made man, the visionary who turned nothing into billions. But if word gets out that he abandoned his own father and tried to bury the truth, investors will run. Competitors will pounce. His entire image collapses. Erica's brow furrowed. You're saying the truth is my leverage? Exactly, Claire nodded. But it can't come from me. If I speak out, he'll spin it as sour grapes from a former employee. It has to come from someone the public will believe. Someone who shows the human cost of Richard's choices. Her chest tightened. Me. Claire's gaze softened. You. The woman he tried to crush for showing compassion. That afternoon, Erica walked back to Mr. Henry's porch. The rain had washed the air clean, the neighborhood smelling of wet earth and cut grass. He sat there as always, but when she approached, she saw the guilt heavy in his eyes. Child, he said quietly, You don't have to fight this fight. My mistakes are mine. Don't let my son drag you under. Erica crouched beside him, her hand on his arm. You're not a mistake. You're a man who deserved better than to be erased. And if standing with you costs me everything, then so be it. For the first time since she'd met him, tears spilled freely down the old man's face. He squeezed her hand, his voice breaking. You remind me of his mother. She had that same fire, that same heart. The words cracked something open inside her. She wasn't just feeding a lonely old man anymore. She was carrying forward a legacy of love he'd lost. That evening, Claire arranged a meeting with a local journalist. One who'd spent years chasing stories about corporate abuse, one not afraid to challenge Callahan enterprises. As Erica prepared, fear churned in her gut. She wasn't a lawyer or a politician. Just a waitress, a single mother, a woman trying to keep her family afloat. But maybe that was exactly what people needed to hear. Before she left, she kissed her daughters goodnight. Mama's got to go do something brave, she whispered. So you'll always know you can, too. Meanwhile, high above the city, Richard sat in his penthouse, staring out at the skyline. His assistant's report lay on the table. She's meeting with a reporter tonight, the assistant said. Richard's jaw clenched. He had expected her to break, to fold under pressure. Instead, she was about to challenge him in public. For the first time in years, he felt the ground shift beneath his feet. He downed his drink, his reflection hard in the glass. Then I'll crush her before she opens her mouth. But deep inside, he wondered, what if she didn't break? Back in the coffee shop, the journalist hit record, and Erica took a shaky breath. She told her story, not just about Mr. Henry, but about the diner, the bills, the nights she fought exhaustion just to keep her children fed. She spoke about kindness, about dignity, about how billionaires like Richard thought money gave them the right to erase people who didn't fit their story. Tears burned her eyes, but her voice never wavered. By the time she finished, the journalist leaned forward, stunned. This isn't just a story, he said. This is a reckoning. When Erica stepped back into the night air, her heart pounded with fear and hope in equal measure. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time, she felt like she wasn't just surviving. She was fighting back. The story hit the local paper the next morning. Billionaire's father lives in poverty while neighbor fights to protect him. Erica's face filled the front page. Nervous but determined, her arm around Mr. Henry's frail shoulders. The article painted a stark contrast between Richard Callahan's empire of glass towers and the peeling paint of his father's porch. By noon, the story was everywhere. Radio stations, blogs, even national news outlets picking it up with hungry headlines. Customers stopped Erica on the street, some with hugs, others with tears. For the first time in her life, she felt seen. But she also felt the storm coming. It didn't take long. That evening, black SUVs lined the curb outside her apartment. Men in suits fanned out as Richard stepped into the courtyard, cameras flashing around him. "Ms. Johnson," a reporter shouted, "did you exploit Henry Callahan for media attention?" Richard's voice thundered over the chaos. "This woman has manipulated my father, a vulnerable old man, for her own gain. She's parading him in front of cameras, dragging our family through the mud. I won't let it stand." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Erica's chest tightened as reporters turned to her, microphones thrust forward. "Is that true, Ms. Johnson? Did you manipulate Henry?" Her heart pounded. She could have run, could have hidden. But she remembered Kiana's tiny voice. "You're the strongest person I know." She stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "No. I fed a hungry man. I sat with him when no one else would. That's not manipulation. That's humanity. And if Richard Callahan thinks kindness is a threat to his empire, maybe that says more about him than it does about me." The crowd erupted, cameras snapping wildly. For the first time, Richard faltered. His jaw clenched, his fists tight at his sides. Hours later, Erica sat with Claire and Mr. Henry in the cramped living room, the hum of the TV filling the silence. News panels debated her words, some siding with Richard, others praising Erica as a hero. But Richard wasn't done. Her phone buzzed, a court summons. He was suing her for defamation, claiming her statements had cost his company millions in stock value. Mr. Henry's face paled. "He'll drag you through the courts, child. You can't fight him there. He's too powerful." Erica swallowed hard, fear knotting in her stomach. He was right. Richard could bury her in legal fees, crush her under the weight of endless litigation. But then Claire leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "We don't need to fight him in court. We fight him in the open. Public. Visible. He thrives in shadows, in controlling narratives. But he can't spin what people see with their own eyes." Erica looked between them, her pulse steadying. "Then we show them." The next day, Erica stood on the courthouse steps, flanked by Claire and Mr. Henry. Reporters crowded the space, cameras flashing. Erica took a deep breath and stepped to the microphone. "Richard Callahan wants to silence me with lawsuits. But you all know the truth. This isn't about money. It's about dignity. It's about a man abandoned by his own son, left to wither while the world believed a lie. If Richard wants to call that defamation, let him. I call it justice." Cheers erupted from the crowd. Mr. Henry, his hands trembling, lifted the microphone. His voice, though weak, carried like thunder. "My son may have built towers. But this woman built something stronger, compassion. And that is worth more than all the money in his bank." The crowd roared. Cameras zoomed in. Across every network, the image spread. Erica standing tall, Henry at her side, refusing to be silenced. In his penthouse, Richard watched the live feed, his glass of bourbon trembling in his hand. The markets were already reacting. Stock prices plummeting. Investors calling. For the first time, his empire was slipping from his grasp, not from a hostile takeover, not from a competitor, but from a waitress who refused to back down. "Sir," his assistant said quietly, "maybe it's time to reconsider your approach. Get out." Richard roared, the glass shattering against the wall. That night, Erica returned home to find neighbors waiting outside her apartment. They carried casseroles, groceries, envelopes of small donations. One by one, they told her the same thing. "We've got your back." She cried then, not from fear, but from the overwhelming realization that she wasn't alone anymore. Her small act of kindness had ignited something bigger than herself. And as she tucked her daughters into bed, she whispered, "We're gonna be okay. No matter what happens next, we're gonna be okay." But deep down, she knew the real fight was still ahead. Richard wouldn't go down quietly. He never did. The courthouse was packed. Reporters lined the marble steps, their microphones angled like spears. Investors, activists, neighbors, everyone wanted to witness the moment. Inside, the air was electric. Richard Callahan strode to the front with his legal team, his polished shoes echoing against the floor. He looked untouchable in his custom suit, but the dark circles under his eyes betrayed sleepless nights. Erica sat at the opposite table, her dress plain but her presence steady. Claire shuffled papers beside her, while Mr. Henry, frail but determined, sat close enough to squeeze her hand. When the judge called for opening remarks, Richard rose first. His voice dripped authority, honed by years of boardrooms and press conferences. "This woman," he said, pointing at Erica, "has maliciously slandered me and my company. She parades my father for sympathy while fabricating lies that have cost shareholders millions. She is nothing more than an opportunist exploiting an old man." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Cameras clicked. Richard's gaze lingered on Erica, daring her to crumble. But when she stood, her voice carried stronger than she expected. "I'm not here to destroy anyone. I'm here because I refuse to ignore a hungry man sitting alone on his porch. I fed him, I listened, I cared. If that threatens Richard Callahan's empire, then maybe his empire was built on something too fragile to last." The crowd murmured approval. Richard's jaw tightened. Then Claire rose, sliding a folder across the judge's bench. "Your Honor, this is documentation from Callahan Enterprises. Records of payments made to conceal Mr. Henry Callahan's existence. Proof that Richard didn't just ignore his father. He paid to erase him." The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambled for photos. The judge slammed the gavel for order. Richard's face drained of color. "That's confidential company property." But the judge leaned forward, eyes sharp. "And it paints a damning picture, Mr. Callahan." When it was Mr. Henry's turn, the old man gripped the railing, his voice trembling but resolute. "My son believes compassion is weakness. He thinks money can buy dignity. But this woman, Erica, she showed me more family than my own blood has in years. If the world wants the truth, here it is. I walked away from wealth because I couldn't bear the emptiness it demanded. And Richard has been punishing me ever since." The gallery erupted in applause, the judge pounding the gavel again. Erica blinked back tears, her heart breaking for the man beside her. Richard leapt to his feet, his voice cracking. "You don't understand. Everything I built, everything I am, was to erase the shame of you. And now she's ruining it." For the first time the billionaire looked small, fragile, broken. Erica rose, her voice steady but piercing. "No, Richard. I'm not ruining anything. You are. Because you forgot that power without humanity isn't power at all. It's a prison." The silence that followed was deafening. By the time the gavel fell, the verdict was clear. The lawsuit was dismissed. Richard was ordered to pay legal fees. And more damning than any sentence, the court of public opinion had turned. Headlines blared that evening. "Billionaire humiliated as waitress and estranged father exposed the truth." Stock prices plummeted. Investors demanded answers. For the first time, Richard Callahan couldn't buy his way out. But Erica didn't linger in the chaos. She walked out of the courthouse hand in hand with her daughters, Claire by her side, Mr. Henry just behind. Neighbors cheered, strangers clapped her on the back, reporters shouted questions she didn't bother answering. Outside the courthouse, she paused at the steps, lifting her daughters into her arms. Tears blurred her vision, but her voice was steady. "We did it, baby girls. We showed the world what kindness can do." That night, her small apartment overflowed with casseroles, flowers, and donations from people she'd never met. Notes arrived from across the country. "You gave us hope. You reminded us what matters." For the first time in years, Erica allowed herself to breathe, to believe in tomorrow. Mr. Henry moved into her spare room, the girls treating him like the grandfather they never had. Laughter filled the home where silence had once pressed like a weight. And though Richard Callahan's empire shook on its foundations, Erica never spoke his name again. She didn't need to. The world had seen the truth. Weeks later, as she tucked her daughters into bed, Kiana whispered, "Mama, you really are the strongest person I know." Erica kissed her forehead, her heart swelling. "No, baby. We're strong together. That's what makes us unstoppable." And as the night settled soft and quiet around them, Erica finally let herself rest. knowing she had turned the storm into something brighter, something lasting.
If you were in Erica's shoes, standing against a billionaire who tried to erase you, what would you have done? Comment below. I read every single one. Thank you so much for watching this story to the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's story. Trust me, you'll love it.